appreciate you tuning in today. I've got a lot to talk to you about today. I'm still walking down that path of healthy, and I don't always know what it looks like, and I still struggle in certain situations, and particularly when it involves my emotions, and I'm not super quick to sort out what is going on inside. And I'm a very linear thinker in terms of processing things. So while my head tends to be a mumble jumble mess of stuff, I think a lot of people have that problem. I never know how I feel about a particular situation or resolve the emotions of a particular situation until I start at point A, the very first thing that happened, and think all the way through the sequence of events and how I feel about each step of the way, and examine it from every angle and make sure that I'm not missing out on anything until I go through that whole entire process, start to finish, linear thinking, and get to the end and come to a conclusion. I literally keep the issue, the problem up here, and it is a bowl of cooked spaghetti. It is just a tangled mess up here. That causes me quite a bit of anxiety and hidden stress that I'm not necessarily aware of throughout the course of any given day. I can function and do my adulting and fit in with society, but I struggle internally. So a lot of times I'll be doing really, really good for a long time and be on point and be happy and be efficient and capable. But then something happens that throws me off course, and then all of a sudden I'm dumb. I'm interacting with people stupidly or foolishly or doing dumb things or making poor decisions about my life until I get through the linear thinking and reach the end point, and then I'm back on track and I'm focused and feel together again. I don't know if you guys go through that or can relate to that at all, but it's a continual struggle for me, and it's why I'm always talking about in my channel about how I'm going to be walking down this path for the rest of my life. Because there's been so many times since I got out of counseling where I thought I'm doing really good, like long periods of times, like 6 months, 8 months, where I feel on top of the world. I upload vlogs, things are good, and I'm in this place where I feel like nothing can hurt me. But then something happens and it's unexpected. So I can get overwhelmed at times, and this is what's happened to me. This has been a couple weeks now, and I shot a video in the first couple of hours of this thing happening, and I had it scheduled to upload tomorrow, but I've pulled that video back down, and I'm instead doing this video because I've thought more about what happened, and I've come full circle since the event initially happened, and I'm really frustrated with myself, and I wanted to share it with you guys how monumentally I screwed up. Like, I thought I was doing the right thing, and now I've come full circle and realized I should have never taken the feelings on that I took on, because the last couple of weeks, because of this thing that happened, and I'll tell you about it in just a minute, because of this thing happening, it has sucked the energy out of me for the last couple of weeks, and my husband, because I'm not the only one affected. So 2 weeks ago today, I went to sleep crying, like my pillow was wet, because my feelings were hurt about something that happened in my family. And you would think that after all the vlogging I've done and all the things I've talked about, that it would be something that I would be aware of. Like, hello, don't react emotionally to this situation. But it's not that easy. I mean, you probably understand that if you are trying to walk down this path of being a healthy person, it's hard to fight your emotions, especially when people do things and say things that are hurtful. It's hard to just shut those feelings off. Part of my story that I'm going to be sharing with you is we can fool ourselves into thinking that we're doing the right thing. We can convince ourselves that we're just finding out the facts. But now that 2 weeks have passed and I've gone through this linear start to finish processing of this entire situation, I've realized this situation never needed to happen in the first place. I should have or could have looked at this situation and went, well, that really sucks. I'm hurt, but I'll get over it. Recognizing and knowing full well that my family is not healthy, that we've all got our issues, and that if I try too much to help others or to try to force a good relationship when only one participant is wanting to have that kind of relationship and the other one is still kind of wanting to embrace the toxicity and the bad behavior, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It takes two. Like in any given relationship, people have to be on the same page. Like you can't have one contributing participant in a relationship and one checked out participant. A relationship does not thrive and flourish in that kind of environment. You both have to be engaged, willing participants, whether you're giving 50-50, 80-20, because they fluctuate. You know, sometimes you're in a bad spot and you're only giving 30% to the relationship and the other partner's picking up some of the slack. But then a period goes by and the roles reverse and you're giving 75% and they're only giving 25%. So that fluctuates over time. But the bottom line is both participants in any given relationship are engaged and giving at all times and mutually committed to each other. So this is what happened, and I'm going to actually start by just giving you the background and then what inspired the text exchange between my brother and I. And then I'm going to read to you word for word our text exchange. And then I'm going to read you the letter that I wrote him. And at the end of the letter, I circle back to right now, the intro of this video and the whole point of this video and why I pulled down the other video I posted, because that original video that I had scheduled to upload tomorrow was a lot of me rambling about my hurt. And just for reference, because I don't want to name names, I'm going to, for the purposes of this video, label my brothers brother number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I am right in the middle. There's 6 siblings in my family. There's my oldest brother, who's the grandiose narcissist of the family, and the second oldest brother, who's the golden child. Like these 2 brothers of mine at the top of the food chain, so to speak, are the 2 people in the family who would never, and have never that I remember, ever apologize or admit to doing anything wrong or being humble. They don't have an ounce of humility about them. They have, the one brother, the golden child, has perceived humility, like a communal narcissist. So I have the oldest brother, the second oldest brother, then me. There were 2 years between each of us, and there's a 4-year break, and then I have my younger sister, and then a younger brother that I still have a pretty good relationship with, and the youngest brother. So I'm labeling my brothers from the oldest 1, 2, 3, 4. Brother number 4 doesn't come into this at all. Leading up to the Saturday night that this happened, brother number 2's son, I had been following for months my nephew's school, and he is a sophomore at this school, so he's in high school. And in the days and weeks leading up to this event that happened 2 weeks ago, I had seen and not paid very close attention at all to the social media posts by my nephew's school. And apparently what they've been posting about, that there was this special event coming up, and I had pretty much ignored all of the posts, assuming, this is pretty ignorant and elementary of me to assume this, but I assumed that this function was a family of students only function and teachers. I did not presume at all that this function that was coming up had anything to do with extended family or buying tickets or anything. I didn't even know, honestly, it didn't click that it was a fundraiser. It just never registered with me. Like I said, I wasn't reading the posts carefully. That's my fault. Totally take accountability for that. But what happened is the event happened, okay, and it was on a Saturday night. And later that night, it was like 11 o'clock, 11:30, something like that. They uploaded a video to their social media page. And it was like a really short video, like 1.5 to 2 minutes of the event. And it was a lot of quick moving pictures and video clips and stuff. And I watched it and it was like, wow, this was a pretty impressive, nice event. But throughout the video, I was like, I thought I was seeing my family there. And I was like, not just my brother and his son and his wife and his stepdaughter and all. Like, I didn't just see their family. I was like, I saw brother number one. I saw brother number three. I saw brother number one's girlfriend. And I was like, seriously? My first reaction was hurt because brother number one's girlfriend was at this event and she's not a member of the family and I wasn't invited. So I was like, what I thought I was seeing things. So what did I do? I backed the video up and watch it over and over and over again, pausing, rewinding, pausing, and backing up and rewatching to make sure that what I was seeing was not imagined, that I definitely saw my family. And I definitely found at least 3 for sure frames where brother number one and his girlfriend and brother number 3 were in the pictures with brother number 2 and his family and his son that goes to this school. And I kind of sat back and went, wow, that sucks to not have been invited to that event. I wish I knew that other people were invited because that looks like a great time. And I kind of was hurt, but then it was like, well, that's how my family is. And I was kind of trying to process the emotions, but I was kind of like doing okay. Well, then later, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes after that, my niece, my brother number two's stepdaughter, she uploads a video to her Instagram, and I see it, that says, it's a video clip of a standing ovation, and the standing ovation did not show any of my family. But I was looking at that and reading the caption and going, what is the standing ovation for? And I literally was just scrolling through social. I just didn't know what it was for. And I put 2 and 2 together. Oh, she's at this event for her brother. I get it. Wow, what was the special occasion? Come to find out, my nephew had performed on stage a solo and played the guitar and sang for the crowd, which got a resounding standing ovation. And that's when the real hurt set in, because I thought, oh my gosh, this was clearly a planned thing. This was a very special thing. And everybody else went except for me. And how hurt was I to be left out of this? So I talked to my husband. He's like, wow, I don't know why we would have been excluded. I'm sorry you're hurt. And I went to bed Saturday night just really like feeling bad, like feeling hurt because I was excluded from this, like other family members and my number one brother's girlfriend was there, and I didn't even get to see my nephew. That just felt so unfair, and that actually made me hate her all the more, even though I already hate her because she had an affair with my brother for years before my sister-in-law finally found out and divorced my brother. That's another topic for another time. Let's not go down a rabbit hole because I'm real good about doing that. But anyway, like those emotions were like, and I was trying to regulate my emotions, but I was having a hard time doing that. So then the next morning I woke up on a clear head and I was like, you know what? I should probably get the facts of the situation first before I react emotionally, even though I already had and I knew I had. But I really wanted to see if there was a perfectly logical explanation for why we were excluded from the invitation. So here's where that's the background. This is where the text thread starts. I texted brother number 2, who is the dad of my nephew that goes to this school. And I said to him Sunday morning, I said, morning, I'm texting because I'm genuinely curious if there was a particular reason that we were excluded from the invitation to this grand event at your son's school last night. His response was, that event each year is their annual fundraising dinner and silent/live auction. Our oldest brother, number 1, sponsored a table and invited us to sit with him at the table. I said, yeah, I kind of knew about the event because I follow them on social, though I didn't really realize that it was a fundraiser. That was really nice of brother number 1 to sponsor a table. He must have been the one that invited brother number 3. I'm glad it wasn't you that excluded us or your family. Hope you got a video of your son's performance. Would love to see it sometime. Thanks much. Have an awesome day. And he responded to that, are there pictures or videos posted somewhere? And I didn't at that point feel like it warranted a response because it felt so sus to me that I was like, I don't really want to engage. You know, if he's looking for evidence or proof of pictures posted somewhere, I don't really want to get into a big debate, because basically at that point, after that response, the two responses, I was like, he's not going to answer my question, how we got excluded or not included, I should say, from this invite. But then I went for a walk, and that's when I shot the vlog that I originally was going to post tomorrow. And I came back home, had dinner, and was in my studio working, and this text pops up that evening that says, I assumed you received my earlier message. Can you share with me what social media you found your information? And I was like, seriously, he's going to press this issue about whether or not I have proof of the fact that others were in attendance at this event. This text conversation doesn't seem like it's really transparent and open and forthright and honest. Like, I'm asking, is there a legit reason? And he's not telling me if there is a legit reason. He's skirting the issue. And I'm like, this screams sus. So I just said to him, in response to his question about where I got my information, I said to him, can you tell me why that matters? But it's been 2 weeks since I've heard from him. That was the last communication. That's how the text exchange went. So this whole time I'm like, all right, you are being sus. You're not answering the question. You're not even responding to my saying, I hope I can see pictures or videos of your son's performance sometime. Like, he was being very sketchy with his responses. So I was convinced, and still am, that he's guilty or being secretive or something. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more. But the letter I wound up writing was inspired because yesterday I had a telephone conversation with brother number 3 about something totally unrelated to this, but this came up. And I used the phrase with that brother, something like, brother number 2 lied. And brother number 3 told me, how so? And I paraphrased the text, and he said, well, that doesn't sound like a lie. A lie is when you say, did you go to this event? And they say no, and then you find out that they did. That's basically a bold-faced lie. It is more like you don't have all of the information. And then I was like, well, that was the whole point of me texting him, is to get the information to find out what I was missing. And he was like, yeah, I can understand that. But you know how sometimes people aren't in the same place as you. And I was like, well, yeah. And he's like, you might be ready for honesty and you might expect someone to be honest with you, but they might not want to be honest with you. And I was like, interesting. So then today I kind of woke up and said, okay, I've been thinking about this phone conversation that I had with brother number 3. And he and I have, as far as I know, a pretty decent relationship. But now I'm going to get into the letter, because the reason I started this letter is because I originally was going to email brother number 2 and apologize for coming across as harsh, because that's what I took away from the conversation with brother number 3 yesterday, because he said, well, you know how some other people are not in the same place as you. And then my mind somehow snaked back to, I feel guilty. But that's, you know, if you're watching this and you're following still so far, you get that people with traumatic pasts frequently go back to feeling guilty. And through me working on this email where I was going to apologize to my older brother number 2, I came full circle. I'll read you my email that was going to originally be an email to him, but I've mentioned this before on my channel, a therapy thing that I learned about years ago is writing a thank you letter to the people who hurt you. And it is very hard to do, but it is extremely therapeutic. And that's what this actually is. And I explain it in the letter. Dear brother number 2, I wanted to write to you about the text exchange that we had 2 weeks ago. Firstly, I wanted to apologize for my part of the text exchange. Now looking back, I can see how it was completely unnecessary for me to text you. I can see how my wording was blunt. And you may not be a blunt person. In fact, I know that you aren't. At the time I texted you, I literally thought I was just getting to the bottom of something that felt suspicious to me and uncomfortable. But now I'm glad I did text you, because even though it's been a rough couple of weeks for me, I wouldn't know now what I didn't know then had I not texted you. I also wanted to write to you to share how I was feeling at the time, the reasons for my texts. And at first I was hoping that I could actually send this letter and that you would not only understand it, but that you would also be willing to share your perspective with me so that I could understand you and that we would grow closer. But now that I've written this letter and I've gotten through to the end, I can see that that's not going to happen. So even though I'm still writing this letter, I'm not going to send it to you. Instead of asking you for your honesty, kindness, and understanding, which is what I wanted in the beginning, I'm going to thank you for showing me that the hope I've imagined in recent years, that our relationship was somehow healing from decades-old wounds, was a figment of my imagination. When I first saw the event advertised on the school's Facebook account beforehand, it may have been ignorant for me to presume, but I honestly thought it was an event for only family of students. And it did not occur to me that it was a public fundraiser. I understand that it may seem foolish and ignorant for me not to have known that, since now when I look back at the school's social media posts, it's very clear. They announced it, they mentioned auction items, etc. But it is the truth that I assumed that just you and your family would be going, and I never once thought to inquire of you about me going myself. Then the evening of the event, the school posted a video wherein I clearly saw our oldest brother, his girlfriend, and brother number 3 in attendance at this event. At first, I was just shocked because I had mistakenly presumed that it was an immediate family of students only event. But then I was hurt because brother number 1's girlfriend is not family and was there, and I was not. And I was hurt because you'd never mentioned the event to me and my family. I was hurt because it appeared as though you had, in contrast, mentioned the event clearly to brother number 1 and brother number 3 and others possibly that simply couldn't attend, but not me. I'm aware that one could argue that I should not have been hurt, but I was. And the reason I was is because I thought we had been getting along really well lately. And as I mentioned at the start of this letter, I imagined the last couple of years that perhaps some older or ancient wounds between us were healing, though we actually haven't talked about them. Later on, the night of the event, your stepdaughter shared a video on social media of your son's standing ovation, and that was when I'd realized that I'd actually missed out not only on the event, but a significant and very special role that he'd had in this event. These two things, the school's video and your stepdaughter's video, made me realize that, one, it was a public event that my family could have gone to. Number 2, I missed your son's very special performance. And number 3, I would have loved to have an opportunity to donate to the school at their fundraiser. And my hurt continued to grow until it became anger. And anger is what I learned in counseling several years ago was my predominant emotion from youth, or my fight trauma response, as it is more well known in the mental health community. But I also learned in counseling not to assume. So that was what prompted my initial text to you, to get the facts. In my head, I was trying to hold off my own judgment of the situation and ask you point blank if there is a perfectly logical explanation for why I was not invited. In my head, I was giving you an out for what appeared to me to be a real rascally thing to do, excluding me. Even though I thought I was doing the right thing by just asking you, by going to the source. Of course, triggered by my old wounds, my selection of wording in that text, I admit, was not fantastic. And I can see now how you might have been put on the defensive by my choice of words. But then I received your response to my text, and your response basically secured my suspicion, because not only didn't you deny that I was excluded, but you also pointed the finger at brother number one, blaming him for any perceived exclusion. Your response essentially affirmed for me then that I was justified in being hurt, told me basically what I needed to know. Initially, I had wanted and hoped for you to say any of the following or combination thereof. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to leave you out. I wish I had thought to invite you. I only had 3 tickets, etc. Anything would have been better than what I actually received, which felt deceptive and blaming, in my opinion. I don't understand, and I still don't, how brother number one's sponsoring a table is an explanation for being excluded by you at your son's school event. How did brother number one even know about the opportunity to sponsor if you had not talked to him ahead of time about it? But I will say your response was exactly what I should have expected. And once I realized that, I didn't feel like there was anything further for me to say, which was then why I responded kindly that it was nice of brother number one to sponsor a table, that I hoped you had pictures or videos of your son's performance, that I couldn't wait to see him, and said, have a great day. But then you responded without acknowledging anything that I had just said in that text. Where's my proof or pictures? Where did I see pictures? And that threw me for a loop. By that point, it felt even more suspicious to me. And it felt very much like you were securing that we were excluded. So I decided not to respond. I didn't feel comfortable engaging any further in what felt so sketchy to me. But later in the day, you pressed again for where I got my information. And that was when I responded, why does that matter? I genuinely could not fathom why I needed to prove, or it felt like I needed to prove to you that I knew others were present at this event. And now it's been 2 weeks without a response to that question from you. I admit, I know that there is information about this whole thing that I am not privy to. But that was why I texted you. That is why I wanted to open the gates of communication between us so that there wouldn't be misunderstandings, so that you would be honest with me, so that I would get the perfectly logical explanation or behind the scenes sequence of events that happened that led to this situation. But I don't understand your responses and your texts at all. I do not understand you seeming to require where I got my information from. I still don't understand why I wasn't invited to this event, and it looks like I'll never know. From the onset, you could have offered an apology or an explanation as to why I was excluded. Or at any point in the last 2 weeks, you could have done so. We could have talked. We could have learned from each other, understood each other, and grown. You could have shown me kindness, understanding, innocence, transparency, and empathy. Instead, your responses reeked of guilt, secrets, and shame. Even though I still don't know why I wasn't invited, it's clear to me that you're not willing to share with me why I wasn't. And that's significant to me. You're not someone I have trusted for decades. And I know that I have not always had a calm, level head, and that I've emotionally reacted to so many things, including this incident. And that has soured your opinion of me. And I'm sorry for that. If you'd have been honest with me, you and I would have talked about all that has happened by this point. You and I probably would have talked about the past a lot more frequently. I'm grateful, however, that this incident did happen, even if it's been painful for me, because at least now I've been reminded to trust my gut, to trust my instinct, and remember that if it smells like a rat and it looks like a rat, it is a rat. Despite my tendency towards emotional reactions, at least I have the comfort of knowing that I've never been deceitful or dishonest with you. I've only ever wanted and given the truth with you, even if I've been emotionally reactive in the past. I do wish I could trust you and that our relationship was better. But I did know about a few things and was reminded through this experience, which I'm grateful for. Number one, I can hope, but I can't expect change in anyone. Number two, I should not expect that people are going to be as honest with me and as forthright with me as I am with them. And lastly, number three, I should be very careful not to react emotionally in the future to any suspicious, toxic, or hurtful behaviors by others. I shouldn't have texted you. I should have known that I was not going to get the truth from you. I'm grateful to know better. Thank you for reassuring me that you cannot be trusted. Thank you for reassuring me that it's good for me to be cautious around you. Thank you for reminding me not to feel guilty about being a loving, honest person. I really would have loved to see my nephew sing. I would have loved to given a donation to his school. And I'm hurt that I wasn't given the opportunity to. But I am reminded to try to keep those feelings to myself instead of trying to get answers from the toxic person. Because toxic people will never be accountable for their hurtful behavior. The end. And that was the whole point I needed to get to. I needed to go through the whole process of thinking this whole thing through over the last couple weeks, go from start to finish, and honestly admit to myself there are some things about the situation that I don't know. And it still could be a perfectly logical explanation as to why I wasn't invited. But the truth is, my brother was very obviously unwilling to give it to me. And I may be hurt, and I may have reacted emotionally, and I may have screwed up by texting him. But the bottom line is, he or my oldest brother, number one of them excluded me. But it was brother number two's son's school's event. So it stems from him. The invitation would originate from him. And when I asked him about it, he was unwilling to tell me, explain to me, apologize, or anything of the sort. He had an opportunity to make it right. And I gave him that opportunity by bringing the subject up. And then he wanted me to prove to him that I knew others were there. So lesson learned, I had to process all of this information, and my son in Germany is calling, and I'm going to answer that. So thanks for tuning in to Whole Wellness with Ann, guys. I'm sorry that you had to wait for this video. Hopefully I'll get it uploaded by tomorrow, Sunday, March 23rd. But if it's not uploaded by then, please be patient with me. I sure hope that you guys have found this video helpful, and please learn from my mistakes. Sometimes, yeah, it hurts and you want to know the truth, but with a toxic person, you're not going to get the truth. So it's a complete waste of time and a complete waste of your emotional upheaval to try to get to the truth. Hang in there, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.